of yesteryear, and really, really sad news this week. There was a passing of a very famous Posek, great rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi. He passed away sadly here. Here we're in the time period of Hanukkah, and obviously shook the Olam HaTorah all over the entire world. He was a very famous rabbi of his time. I think he was born, back in the year 1933, actually in Venezuela, interesting enough. So he would, let's just say, you'd go on to become very great in very different positions, especially in Jewish law, especially in kashrut, as well as bringing about various different Ashkenazic and Sephardic customs in of itself. So so he passed away this week. Here we are in mid-December. I think it was around 16th or 17th of December here in 2025. He was about 92 years of age at the time of passing, and much has been documented about. He was author of the Or Yitzhak, a famous book. He was very prominent in the United States of America, especially in recent years. We're going to learn about that. He was a Talmid, I think, with the great Rabbi Aaron Kotler, who we've mentioned about on various occasions before, and was close to many other great rabbis, including, if I'm not mistaken, the famous Rabbi Meir Vaknin, rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before, and I think he would study in Tiferet Yisrael Yeshiva and in various other places also. So that's very interesting. Just to say a word with regards to, we recorded a video, if you recollect, with regards to Rabbi Meir Vaknin. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was about maybe a year and a half ago or something, at the time period of his Hilula. So he was actually close with him. Let's explore a bit within regards to Rabbi Meir Vaknin, because he was a key rabbi of that specific window of time, say, in of itself. He was a rabbi. I think we actually recorded the video. It was just over a year ago. It was in April 2024. We spoke about Rabbi Meir Vaknin. Let's explore a bit within regards to him. I think he lived between 1885 to 1975. He passed away. He was the head of Jewish court in Tiberias. He was actually, if I'm not mistaken, the son of Rabbi David Vaknin, another great rabbi. So you can see these figures. So he really was imbued in greatness from the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was actually from Fez, if I'm not mistaken. And he would actually be taking on various different undertakings, Rabbi Meir Vaknin, especially in Tiberias, as a Shluchei Rabbanan on various occasions of time. I think it was part very much representing the Kollel of Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes, which we've spoken about before. He would also have strong ties to America, I think especially New York, if I'm not mistaken. And the First World War would shake the world up in of itself. But Rabbi Meir Vaknin, I think he passed away eventually in 1975. And he was also author of various books, including the Zichron Meir, the Vayomer Meir, which was actually in 2 chalakim, if I'm not mistaken. And he would have many, many students, if I'm not mistaken. I think, interesting enough, I think he was close to Rabbi Raphael Bibas, if I'm not mistaken, who we're going back a few generations. Also, Rabbi Yaakov Chai Zerichen, a rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. And I think Rabbi Yitzhak Barda, for example, is one of his Talmidim, and also Rabbi Shabtai Ben Chaim, if I'm not mistaken, another Dayan, I think from Iraq, if I'm not mistaken, who was a rabbi of Moshav Menucha, and also Rabbi David Halevi, another great rabbi of his yesteryear. Rabbi David Halevi, I believe, was a Sephardic chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, Jaffa, and the winner of a Rav Kook Prize, if I'm not mistaken, and very, very prominent rabbis in of itself. So that was Rabbi Meir Vaknin, and that was the same caliber. We're talking about the same school of students that Rabbi Meir Vaknin produced. Would have been someone as the great Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi, who sadly passed away this week. He learned in a yeshiva called Tiferet Yisrael, which we're going to speak about in due course over here. So, so as we said before, he was born in the year 1933, I believe. It was obviously in Venezuela. Remember, we recorded a video within regards to history of Venezuelan Jewry. He was actually born from a family of Syrian descent, I believe. And when I think he was young, he would actually move to Tiberias, and he would pursue advanced Torah studies, especially in Haifa, in Tel Aviv, Yeshivat Hebron. But in Israel, I believe he would study in Tiferet Yisrael Yeshiva. Now, I think we've spoken about it. We actually recorded a video within regards to the famous Tiferet Yisrael Yeshiva. Here on this channel, we had the privilege of, recording the video. I think, because what one thing that we're trying to do here on this channel is to actually get imbued about the various different histories within regards to, let's say, great yeshivot that there were of yesteryear, and I think, or great schools of yesteryear, and that was very much a place I think that would be embodied, and let's just say in and of itself. So he would actually also learn there. Okay, so I think he would most famously go to the famous Bet Midrash Gavoa in Lakewood. This was that in New Jersey under great Rabbi Aaron Kotler, I think he would actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was sent at the age of 19 by the Chazon Ish to get it, and it was very, very great, let's just say, move in of itself. Now, Beit Midrash HaGavoa itself, the Lakewood Yeshiva of Rabbi Aaron Kotler, I think was founded in 1943. It was like a response, let's just say, to the destruction of the European yeshivot during the Holocaust under the Lithuanian flagship. And there were other famous rabbis, I think, Sephardic rabbis that would go there and have a window of time spending there, including Rabbi Fior. If I'm not mistaken, we actually recorded a video about him. I think it was around June time, if I recollect. So that will be a huge move over there at that point in time, and to actually end up inside this yeshiva for Rav Abadi. But his brilliance was apparent, and I think it was after Rabbi Aaron Kotler passed away, Rabbi Abadi would emerge as, let's say, key halachic, let's say, Jewish law figure in Lakewood. He would direct, let's say, or where he would direct various prominent halacha kollel, I believe, and would establish, I think, a kollel later on in the neighborhood of Harnof in Jerusalem. And he would become like a major player in Jewish law all across the world at that point in time. He would, let's just say, it's actually reported over here inside Wikipedia over here, a specific dictionary article. His approach to Jewish law emphasizes, to say, according to this opinion, an authentic Torah observance, unburdened by, let's say, the stringencies that could come about. He would distinguish between biblical mandates, rabbinic decrees, and local customs to provide practical guidance, let's say, that respects, like, say, diverse Jewish traditions in himself. He would, obviously, I think he would permit kitniot for Sephardim during Passover. Most Sephardim would eat kitniot, but everyone has to look into what their communities actually did in of itself. And he would try and foster, let's say, unity across various different communities in of itself. It's reported over, like, say, in the topic of kashrut, he advocated for evaluating food products based on ingredient lists when supported by halachic analysis, which might have differed, let's just say, from some other mainstream certifications. So he might have been seen more on the lenient side, which maybe tradition allows. And interesting enough, I think it would lay a foundation for the kashrut.org. This was during the 1980s. And I think with his son, Rabbi Aaron Abadi, if I'm not mistaken, this is the thing. He would put about various different scholarly contributions onto the table within regards to books, a 2-volume responsa called the Or Yitzhak, which, let's say, addresses and grapples with various different tough halachic queries within regards to the code of Jewish law, especially Yoredea, respectively. So let's explore. We're going to explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life over here. I'm just going to take a short break for 1 minute, and we will come back in 1 minute, friends. So just watch your space, and just in a minute, I will just return over here. So everyone, in the meantime, all I can say to you is just please, in the meantime, subscribe to the channel, and I'll just be back in 1 minute, friends, over here. Sorry about the delay. And we're going to continue exploring some of the main highlights of the great rabbi's life over here. Yeah, thanks, friends, for being patient over here. We're exploring the life of a really great rabbi that sadly passed away this week, Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi. So he was born, I believe, on March the 12th in the English year 1933 in Venezuela. As I said before, it was a family of Syrian Jewish heritage. We learned that he would go with his family to move to Tiberias, which was then part of mandatory Palestine, obviously part of Eretz Israel. He would spend his early years there in the Jewish community, and let's just say that there would be challenges, let's just say, of settlement at that point in time. And he grew up in Tiberias. It was a historic center, Tiberias was, with regards to Sephardic Jewish life. And he was immersed in various different customs and traditions within regards to the Sephardic community over here. And this would be groundwork, let's say, for his transition to more structured study at that point in time. So I think his Torah education will, a very strong Torah education, will come more at the start of the teenage years, following his family's relocation to Israel in early childhood. He would initially study in the city of Haifa, and before attending the Yishuv HaChadash Yeshiva in Tel Aviv. Very interesting. I don't think we've spoken about this yeshiva on that many occasions over here, so it'll be interesting to find out more within regards to this famous place. So I think Tel Aviv also had various yeshivot we have to point about. I think at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, maybe it's under the guidance of Rav Amiel, this yeshiva currently, this place in Tel Aviv, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's old, let's say it's actually described as the oldest high school yeshiva, and has a very high level and successes in fields just all throughout the years in of itself. And I think one of the Rosh Yeshiva was Rabbi Yehuda Kolodotsky, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he passed away a while ago. And I think it's actually well known for having a very long study session, so up to 13 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And there is partial time also allocated also to secular studies. And the vast majority would actually, let's just say, come from ultra-Orthodox families, and people that would actually study there respectively. So that's just a side point apparently about the yeshiva. So I think it was, during he was mid-teens during the 1940s, and this would once again bring more, let's say, groundwork with regards to his advanced studies, which would focus, let's say, on more core texts, on the Talmud, halachic principles, especially with regards to the Sephardic, the Spanish-oriented environment. Now, I think afterwards he would attend the famous Yeshivat Hebron in Jerusalem, obviously a very famous institution, which emphasized, let's just say, rigorous Talmudic analysis, let's say dialectical debate. That would be thinking that I think in his late teens he'll be there between 1950 to 1951, and he would engage in tough sugyot, Talmudic topics, and really was seen, let's just say, the brilliance within regards to his skills, his Torah skills, his Gemara skills in of itself. And let's just say, I think Hebron's Ashkenazi influence, Rosh Yeshiva, was very, very impressed with him at that stage in time. And at that point in time, I don't know how common it was for Sephardic students to actually be learning in Ashkenazic institutions, but this was definitely a, let's just say, an important move at that stage in time. Okay, and then afterwards, he'll really be immersed, and this will actually give him exposure to broader scholarly methods, which would very much prepare him for the various rabbinic roles that he is going to take on later on in his life. Now, when he was only 19 years of age, I think it was in the year 1952, prominence will definitely come about at that stage in time, as he, I think, under the instructions of Chazon Ish, as I mentioned before, Rabbi Avraham Yishai Kerelitz, he would go to Switzerland, to Montreal, and after this time period in Switzerland, obviously more growth and more diversity, more traveling, the Chazon Ish will direct Rabbi Abadi to the famous Lakewood Yeshiva in New Jersey, where he would study under the famous Rabbi Aaron Kotler. I think this would start from the year 1953. So at that stage in time, he was about 19, 20 years of age. This was very, very important, let's just say, within regards to excelling in his career and to developing himself within regards to, let's just say, the realms of Torah study, Torah brilliance, and so on and so forth. And it will end up becoming a key move at that stage in time, not just for him, just for the long term. And he was a Sephardic Jew, a Jewish person, studying under various different Ashkenazic Rabbanim, including Rabbi Kotler, which was obviously prominent, and he would be able, this will actually enable him to bridge cultural divides at that stage in time. So it was a key, let's just say, importance for him to actually do in order for him to excel in general within regards to that, and will end up becoming obviously a very, very important let's just role in of itself. So you can see he's really been through various countries: Switzerland, America, Israel, Venezuela, different continents totally, and how important that will actually be for his development. So eventually he will arrive and take on roles in the United States of America. I think, obviously, after being in Israel, Rabbi Abadi arrived in the United States in the 1950s. He would settle permanently in Lakewood in New Jersey, where he would continue, let's just say, at that window of time, the important Torah level education. I think, obviously, at the Bet Midrash Gavor, which is spoke about, under Rav Aaron Kotler, and he obviously would be immersed in a predominantly Ashkenazic Haredi environment of Lakewood, because it is a very Lithuanian, let's just say, Torah-oriented place, especially for Eastern European Jews. And obviously, that will, let's say, he'll be able to navigate, let's say, cultural and halakhic differences, bridging divides by incorporating Sephardic customs into a broader community of practices over here. Would very much enable him and embody him to do all these important works. Now, anyone tuning in live at the moment, please join our community, welcome to our community, and subscribe to the channel. Now, I think it was in the 1980s, Rabbi Abadi will expand his influence through, let's say, outreach at that point in time, kiruv work, to various diverse Jewish groups, including especially Sephardic immigrants, adapting to American life. He provide tailored halakhic advice that really respected, let's say, various different ethnic traditions, while obviously aligning with Orthodox standards. He would take a huge effort emphasizing practical accommodations, such as with regards to Pesach, for example, observances, with regards to that, especially about the topic of kinyot. And he will help integrate minority perspectives into the dominant Ashkenazic, let's say, framework without compromising core principles. So he wanted, let's say, some unity was very important for this. And it was a period, let's say, solidified his reputation as versatile Posek, halakhic Jewish law renderer, very much capable of addressing the needs of, let's say, at that point in time, an American Orthodox landscape for especially the people that was looking to require that specific, let's just say, realm in of itself. So that's very interesting. So leadership time will come. I believe, come 1980, Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi would found the Kollel Ohel Torah in Lakewood, New Jersey. So that stage in time, I believe, he was already in his mid-40s. And remember, he's coming inside an area predominantly Ashkenazic at that stage in time. So that this will already be, let's just say, a toughish, just an importance to actually do. But very much you can see, because of the diversity, how he would be able to excel and expand at various points in time. So as Rosh Kollel, he will oversee a curriculum emphasizing practical halakha, Jewish law, and the preparation of his students to become poskim, focusing on, let's say, more real-life applications of Jewish law. The Kollel will quickly gain, I think, recognition within the ultra-Orthodox community, and will be seen as a place for producing scholars capable of addressing contemporary issues, contributing to its growth as a, let's say, preeminent halacha study program. So you can see how important actually his project actually was. I mean, it was a project, it was a kollel in of itself. So that is actually very superseding, let's just say, and important. In 1993, Rabbi Abadi would relocate the Kollel Ohel Torah of Har Nof in Jerusalem, aimed really to strengthen ties between ultra-Orthodox communities in Israel and the United States. He would try to immerse American students in an Israeli Torah environment. So obviously that's very, very important, especially in many communities. Let's just say, some could struggle for adaptation, so definitely that would be a boost for these communities, and will grow continuously at that stage in time, and expand and really strengthen, let's say, the Torah in of itself. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, he, under his continued leadership as Rosh Kollel, the institution maintained, let's say, rigorous focus on halacha decision making, adapting to new settings while navigating, let's say, the more logistical and funding challenges associated with global operations. and the enrollment will continue expanding, I think, during this period. They will attract a very diverse group of, let's say, prominent learners, Torah learners in itself, who are really committed, let's say, to in-depth poskim training. I think the Kollel will return to Lakewood in 2009. Rabbi Abadi expanded, let's say, the realms to better accommodate international students, global students, to fostering cross-Atlantic ultra-Orthodox leadership. This relocation would address, I think, that at that point in time there was some funding needing, especially through the community in the United States of America. It allowed increased enrollment, broader impact on various Jewish law education also, and he would have a direct oversight, ensuring that the Kollel's enduring emphasis of practical halakha, let's say, solidify its reputation for training influential rabbinic figures. So he would try. Now, he was very influential as a posek. We're not going to go in all his decision making. Let's just say his approach to halakha decision making, obviously characterized by preference for more. He was seen as more on the lenient ruling side, or the cooler side of itself, especially drawing on interpretations of classical authorities such as the Rambam and other Rishonim, and he would try and avoid, let's say, don't want to use these words, maybe more unnecessary stringencies where the sources permit flexibility. Remember, many Rabbanim would like people to be, more strict, and there's just different shitot out there, but we're just illustrating over there. He had a unique position as obviously a Sephardic Jewish person of Syrian heritage who would study under prominent Ashkenazic rabbis. So it wasn't that, in those days, I think initially it wasn't that common. Obviously now it's much more common than it used to be. So he would try and foster unity by harmonizing Sephardic and Ashkenazic customs. In his Pesach, for instance, I believe he addressed divergences like Ashkenazic prohibition on kitniot during Passover while respecting foundational halakhic texts that allow broader observance. Now remember, many Ashkenazic rabbis, Orthodox ones straight away, will definitely tell the Ashkenazic communities, the community itself, to be strict on kitniot, and as someone not Ashkenazi, it's important that people should follow their rabbi. This is just a historical class. I'm not telling anyone what they should do whatsoever, God forbid, in this class, just trying to get like a realm of the history. I think especially within regards to kashrut determinations, Rabbi Abadi would, if this reported over, I'm reading over here, relied heavily on ingredient lists provided by manufacturers, applying principles such as bitul b'shishim. This is nullification of a mixture, let's just say, when there's 60 times its volume, and this will help, let's say, access what's the status within regards to kosher. And I think it's reported over, instead of mandating, let's say, comprehensive facility inspections, common in mainstream certifications. Now, many, I'm sure, rabbis would speak about, how important it will be to actually have, like, let's say, their protocols that they've got themselves respectively. And I'll once again point that out. Also, it's just a historical class within regards to the famous rabbi, something that we have to point out. Okay, so just to progress on at the moment, I think his approach maybe differed from more conventional kosher stamps, hechsherim, which often incorporated additional safeguards beyond explicit halachic requirements, which said, let's say, allowed Rabbi Abadi's followers greater independence in everyday food choices. Now, I think another thing reported over central to, let's say, his philosophy of adapting halakha to modern life while preserving core observance. He would achieve, I think, meticulous textual analysis of various different primary sources, like the Code of Jewish Law and the various commentaries, to discern between, let's say, biblical Torah, Midoraita mandates, Midorabanan decrees, and cultural practices. He emphasized clarity in distinguishing these various different layers, also in guidance and so on and so forth. That's more. He would have definitely a global and a communal impact. I think following the passing of Rabbi Aaron Kotler in 1962, Rabbi Abadi emerged as the leading halachic authority. Remember, he's under 30 still at that point in time, especially within the Haredi community of Lakewood in New Jersey. He served as a primary decisor of the Bet Midrash Gavoa and the Yeshiva and its affiliates, who would provide guidance on complex halachic matters, drawing deep Torah scholarship and addressed various questions from various institutions and individuals, we have to point about. And his Sephardic heritage combined with Ashkenazic training positioned him, obviously, within, as we made before, with regards to Orthodox Judaism. His followers was very diverse, we have to point out. And his rulings will influence practices in both the United States of America and in Israel. Cross-communal appeal stemmed, let us say, in part from his relatively more lenient approach to certain Jewish law issues, which we have to point out. His influence, so there was various different debates, which I think is reported over widely. I've read about this, and I think there's videos online. With regards to the topic of hair coverings, especially shaitels, I think reported over in 2004, he would publicly rule that wigs from Indian hair were permissible for use. Let's say, countering various other opinions, says Rabbi Yosef Shalom Eliashiv, who deemed them unsuitable to various concerns of over idolatrous origins. Now, I think this stance, let's just say, this topic would be discussed in the Orthodox circles, especially media, highlighting, let's say, with regards to more lenient and more strict approach in of itself. So that's something we have to point about. Many rabbis would say it would be forbidden, the hair also, and will come up with strong reasons why. So we have to point that out. Friends, over here. I think his kashrut rulings have faced, let's say, much debate over the years, especially about relying on leniencies, and that's something we have to point out also. And institutional efforts, there was more digital platforms he will try and use. I think in 1980 he found the prominent halakha college in Lakewood. This would relocate in Haranoff in 1993, continuing to train scholars in practical halakha and decision makings. And I think there's a famous kashrut.org website, which was launched by his son in the 1980s, and also oheltorah.com, which gave halakhic queries, especially on the topic of kosher and kashrut, which we have to point out. And he, I think towards the end of his life, he had some health challenges, if I'm not mistaken, especially in 2024. And obviously, very sadly, he passed away here in December 2025. He would take on various different halakhic decision making, let's just say, in of itself. I think a significant ruling permitting the use of silk screen printed Sefer Torah scrolls developed in collaboration with another rabbi named Rabbi Yosef Tesla over the period of 10 years, beginning in the early 2000s. Let's just say that was a halakhic topic. Let's just say I think it was an innovative process involving manually pushing ink through a silk screen to form letters on parchment, ensuring each scroll meets traditional halakhic requirements, a ketiva, without mechanical printing. Just in a nutshell over there. He would also, remember he had a response called Ori Yitzhak, I think it was in 2 volumes, if I'm not mistaken, especially on the Yoredeh. And very interesting. I think it was in 2009 actually, Rabbi Abadi approved the use of wigs made from Indian hair for married Jewish women. So that would be obviously a very, many rabbis would totally disagree with that. I believe Orthodox rabbis. He had concerns about the commercial sourcing from Hindu tonsuring rituals, potentially rendering them idolatrous. His analysis concluded that such hair does not constitute a prohibited offering, apparently. Tukruvat Avodah Zarah, this is what the website says, Grokipedia, I think, if I'm not mistaken, as a shaving act is merely preparatory and lacks the sacrificial intent required under halakha. So that's the whole to himself. He would also famously, I think, create a shortened version, so it's reported over, with regards to grace after meals, birkat mazon, strictly derived from the text of the Rambam, and variations permitted by other Rishonim to, let's say, facilitate its recitation for those finding the full version challenging. And we're going to explore in due course with regards to daily observance over here. There's what he actually held up over here. I'm just going to take 1 more minute break. So please, everyone, in the meantime, subscribe to the channel and join our community. And we're going to be back in 1 minute, friends. Over here. Thanks everyone for being patient. We're exploring life, just a few highlights within regards to Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi over here, one of the special editions. So anyone that's joining in live at the moment, welcome to our community. And sorry about this was a second short break. We might have to take another break in maybe 5 minutes or so. So we take he was more lenient, let's just say, within regards to kashrut standards. We have to point out over here. That's what's reported over. I think one of the kashrut he advocated for lenient kashrut standards that emphasize reliance on product ingredient lists rather than mandatory rabbinic supervision in specific cases. I'm not too sure within regards to this so much that this is what's actually reported over. And I think also, very interesting. So, and there was various other halakhic rulings actually take on, which is actually chronicled over. I'm not going to go so much into it. But it's just to give a highlight of. But he was gigantic rabbi when it came to Posek, within regards to halachic decision makings, and obviously one of the great, most famous halachic renderers, definitely within regards to recent times in America, especially from a diverse point of view. Okay, let's speak about his work called Or Yitzhak for a minute. It consists of 2 volumes, compiling of Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi's response, let's just say, on various diverse halachic issues. I believe it was published in 2000s. The first volume was appeared in Jerusalem in 2003, reported over. It would have 465 pages. That's a staggering amount, let's just say. And it was organized into numbered simanim that provide detailed analysis of, let's say, various different sugiyot inside the Gemara itself, respectively, and various different rulings, halachic decision rulings across topics such as nida, ritual purity, monetary, money, mammon, as they say, disputes that could come about, and various different daily observances. And I think a second volume, which will actually be published in Lakewood, if I'm not mistaken, that would comprise of 291 pages, extending this format with, say, more in-depth explorations of various different topics, let's say, emphasizing textual examination, application to contemporary, let's say, scenarios also. I think both volumes would very much feature extensive discussion within regards to the Gemara, various sources from Rishonim and Achronim, respectively, and highlights innovative interpretations, especially for leniency in monetary and ritual laws, where supported by precedents, we have to point out. And among poskim, I think the Or Yitzhak would have recognition, obviously, for the great scholarly depth, various responsa, frequently cited in various different halachic discourse on various occasions in time. And very interesting. I think there were shorter texts and guides, if I'm not mistaken, that will be. Obviously, with this extensive rabbinic work, Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi's rulings, let's say, would inspire several shorter textuals and guides designed for practical everyday application for halachic principles, is reported over, emphasizing clarity on accessibility for non-experts. I think he would really try to do. I think he would have a booklet. One of the booklets he would publish was the Laws of Nida Simplified. That would be by his son, Rabbi Aaron Abadi. I think that was more based on Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi's halachic decisions and writings, and provide explanations and rulings tailored for lay people, covering, let's say, important topics such as implications of blood emissions and related prohibitions and this was, I think, available in a very concise format in English, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something important that we have to point about within regards to it. So he composed the Birkat Mazon, let's say Hakatzar, a short version, as we mentioned before, and that's something we did speak about. So much in depth. Obviously, I think various different of his summary rulings, I think, is actually found on oheltorah.com, a website out there. And that very much attracts a lot of people outside of the community, respectively. Let's explore a bit more within regards to him, because there's still so much we can speak about. Obviously, he learned in Lakewood, he learned in Hebron. At various points of time, he was close to the Chazon Ish, to Rav Aaron Kotler. That's other things that we have to point out within regards to him, and there's even more that we can say. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, yes, he had this kollel in Harnof, which was actually a transferred kollel, and I think various rabbis will, for example, especially the issue of the silk screen decision, which he actually passed in, like, was contested by another rabbi, Rabbi Blythe, if I'm not mistaken, an ultra-Orthodox American rabbi on this specific topic. I think he was actually maybe a graduate of the Yeshiva University in New York, respectively. But he had the Kollel Ohel Torah, which is a very famous Kollel, and that's something we definitely have to point out within regards to the famous rabbi. Anyone tuning in live, welcome to our community over here. I believe he was very well travelled also, especially when he was giving lectures. He would go to various different places, and he was seen giving lectures, I think, to not just Americans, to very much a lot of Israelis, and people just from all walks and all different areas. That's something that we very much have to point out within regards to the famous Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was born in 1933, passed away in 2025, so he was about 92, 93 years of age at the time he passed away. We have to admit, it'll be good to hear more information with regards to his time period in Venezuela. I think it's actually interesting. I think in Venezuela it was a time when Jewish communities across the world were searching for safe havens from, and obviously there was a growing Nazi threat in Europe, and his family of Syrian Halabi extraction didn't stay that long. It was in 1934. He was actually only 2 years of age when he came to Eretz Israel and would settle in the holy city of Tiberias. That's what we have to point out. So he was also close to another rabbi, Rabbi Raphael Kook, in his very, very younger ages, as well as Rabbi Meir Vaknin. Raphael Kook was a great rabbi. He would, as I mentioned before, he would study in Yeshivat Eretz Israel for 2 years, and then the Yeshivat HaYeshuva Chadash in Tel Aviv at a later stage, which I have to point out. I think, it was this yeshiva in Tel Aviv, which was in the Yeshivat HaChadash, was a groundbreaking institution founded by Tel Aviv's chief rabbi at the time, Rabbi Moshe Avigdor Amiel, representing, let's say, a new model of religious education that would go to produce future leaders, and not just he would be produced as a leader there, also a future Ashkenazic chief rabbi David Lau, if I'm not mistaken. So Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi was really among that place, and that would shape him. We mentioned about how he would spend time in Yeshivat Hebron in Jerusalem, and there was an Israeli branch, I think, of the legendary Slobodka Yeshiva from Europe, and I think that actually had relocated after, obviously, the tragic massacre that occurred, the terrible one, in 1929, and there was traditions of Musar and deep Talmudic analysis, which would very much develop his character and various different scholarship, let's just say, in of itself. And friends, everyone tuning in live at the moment, welcome to our community, and please don't forget to join our channel over here as we're exploring a few of the highlights of the famous Rabbi Abadi's life over here. We mentioned about how he would form a relationship and a friendship with famous Chazon Ish, who was obviously arguably one of the greatest living Jewish authorities at that stage in time, especially during that era. That's something that we have to point out. So the yeshiva he studied in Montreal, in Switzerland, I think it was called Yeshivat Etz Chaim, if I'm not mistaken, and that was under Rabbi Eliyahu Bochko, if I'm not mistaken, and the yeshiva was one of the only European yeshivot to continue functioning throughout World War II, and its teachers, I think, included future Gedolim, like including Rabbi Aaron Leib Steiner. Remember, he passed away, I believe, just before the festival of Hanukkah in 2017. Now, very interesting. We spoke about how he would end up under Rav Aaron Kotler's leadership when he was only 19 years of age, and then how after Rav Aaron Kotler passed away, he would start taking on important roles over there, and eventually he would move his kollel to Har Nof in Jerusalem, and he would eventually return, I think, to Lakewood in 2009. Obviously known as one of the most famous paskim at that time, he was not scared to rule leniently when his research led him to conclude that leniency was warranted, and on many occasions it would be over here. And I think, very interesting. Some of his rulings would draw, let's say, debates from other poskim who maybe disagreed with his conclusions. But Rabbi Abadi understood, apparently, it's reported over, I'm just reading from the vinnews.com website where they give like an analysis about him. They understood that a poseks or halachic renderers every question, decisions, is not to seek popularity, but to seek the emet truth in it. So he saw that in of itself. Now, the greatest testament, let's just say, to Rabbi Abadi's legacy is found in the people he taught. He taught many, many students. He was a direct link, let's just say, to an earlier era or period of time. A man who learned from the Chazon Ish, so he's connecting generations. And it was appointed Posek by Rabbi Aaron Kotler, who carried with him, let's say, the Mesurah of Yeshivat Slobodka and Yeshivat Hebron and Montreaux, also respectively. So obviously, he was known as a rabbi that had encyclopedic knowledge with practical wisdom and was really great at navigating complex, let's say, halachic Jewish law decisions with confidence and clarity, training generations of students to carry important work of Psak Halakha. And just shows within regards to that. We're just going to take one last break over here before we are going to conclude this presentation. So just please be patient and wait a minute, and we will come back, friends. Hi, shalom everyone. Thanks for the patience over here as we are just speaking a few words with regards to famous Rabbi Abadi, who sadly passed away this week. So let's talk a bit about his website, kashrut.org. This, I think, one of the websites out there, and obviously founded, I think it's deeply rooted in the history and legacy of Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi, and very much they talk about his history on this let's just say, this website also. It says, I think it was founded actually in 1980s by Rabbi Abadi's son, Rabbi Aaron Abadi. And I think there was a huge amount of inspiration where various teenagers, let's just say Rabbi Aaron and his siblings, noticed that the American rabbinical supervision primarily served Ashkenazic Jews. So it created challenges for Sephardic Jews. So that was one of the reasons why this would be actually started in of itself. And I think for more than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, there were various question and answers forum within regards to various different issues which they grappled with, and very much took very informative website, which I recommend everyone to look at and to read. It's got various different insights, especially it talks about Pesach products, Pesach kosher products, kashrut, eating out within regards to koshering, and within regards to Jewish law, and various lists and guides they've got over here, and different questions and answers, Sheilot, Torah talks, bridge prayers, grace after meals. I think it also features a podcast section. This does. That's something very important to point out. So that's the first thing I wanted to say over. And so kashrut.org. So I would recommend everyone to check that out. I think there's, a tribute website within regards to him, because obviously he was very, very renowned, great scholar, where they encourage people to light candles in his memory. He lived between the Hebrew year 5693 to 5786. He happened to be, and there's various websites. I think he actually came from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. That's where he actually was from, we have to point out also, which is another very important fact. He passed away obviously in the United States of America, and was seen as a very towering figure at that stage in time. So more can actually be brought within regards to him. And he passed away. There's more we can say about him. I would recommend everyone to look more into him also. The importance he did. We talked about how the various different organizations he had. And very important. So sadly, he passed away this week. And I would recommend everyone please light candles in his memory, and his shiva, I think, will be towards the start of next week. So I think the Ohel Torah was a central part of his. He talks about various different topics, and especially many of the questions are within regards to davening 3 times a day, especially on the top of women, different kashrut issues, the liquid eruvin, lab-grown meat apparently is a topic, and all these different topics where they talk about the topic of craft beer, pasta, burger buns, and so on and so forth. There's many different topics and interesting questions actually come up, which I believe he will actually give an answer to. It's, I think, oheltorah.com, if I'm not mistaken. That will be the source of points over here within regards to that. But please, anyone, if you haven't joined yet our community and you're watching live, please subscribe to our channel and join our community. We have recorded over approximately maybe more than 1,400 famous rabbis of yesteryear over here on this series. So we really appreciate any feedback that you can give us, and to obviously learn more within regards to great rabbis of yesteryear that there was. And we can see so many different great rabbis, and very interesting to speak about another American rabbi here today. And we don't really get to speak about many American Sephardi rabbis, especially from recent years. So this is something very inviting, and something also definitely very important that we have to bring about. So he was a great rabbi, Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi. I'm not so sure more information about his parents and his family. It would be good to hear more information within regards to them. But he himself was definitely a very famous rabbi of his period of time while he was very much living, and was a great Posek Halakha, and the author of the famous book called the Or Yitzhak, which we mentioned about before. So everyone, you watch live and you enjoy the content, please subscribe to our channel over here at the moment. We're a community here. We don't just record videos on famous rabbis of yesteryear. We do tours all over Israel. We love to tour around, explore what's going on in various different locales and different places. And that's something that's very, let's just say, exciting in of itself. And I recommend everyone to watch those videos that were recorded. Also recorded daily tidbit on the Daf Yomi, a daily page every day. So that's also something we're very, very much proud about. We have been doing this now for nearly about 3.5 years, or even slightly longer. We've been doing this series, and the channel itself is now operating more than 3.5 years. So really, really making amazing progress, improvement, and these are all things that we have to point out. I think it's very, very important. And if you've got any more feedback or anything else, please let me know. I really, really appreciate it. I think on this note, I'm going to wish you all a happy Hanukkah. We are on the 5th night of Hanukkah here, of the Festival of Lights, and we're about to go into Shabbat, Parshat, I believe, Miketz this week, which is obviously Shabbat Hanukkah, which is also another very auspicious time at the moment. So, very important that we educate ourselves more with regards to Jewish community history. And very, very sad news about Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi Z'tl. So wishing all a happy Hanukkah and Shabbat Shalom, and take care, and thank you for watching. Thanks.